I'm a truck guy. I like to take back. I like to ride legs. So I was like, oh, I'm going to go out to Oceanside, and I'm going to learn all this Eddie Bravo shit. I went out to Oceanside. They were doing nothing but leg locks. So I was like, oh, you got no choice right now. And it took a minute for sure, but I feel like just like anything else in jiu-jitsu is just that time aspect.
Yeah,
More time on the fire.
I think that's what I got to do. I've been privileged, both financially and just the crew that I have of like how I've learned jiu-jitsu. I think I've been to maybe 6 classes, like actual classes. My jiu-jitsu schedule would be I get to the gym at 10 and I'll do a private from 10 to 11, and then from 11 to 12 my professor will kick the living shit out of me, and then open mat starts at noon. So I have this like lesson, the extreme end of the spectrum of how gnarly it can get, and then by the time I'm rolling with people that are like purple belt and below, even guys that are way better than me, I'm just like, okay, well, at least this seems like a solvable problem. Like when I roll with Will, I'm just like, what is this? Like this is like, it's so crazy that this level of jiu-jitsu exists, So I mean, that's how I've learned fast, is like putting in that time, that individual, like, okay, here's what I want to learn, show me. So yeah, I got to get on that, or I'm gonna get my leg ripped off.
Do you ever have any aspirations of doing a Thai fight?
Dude, if I didn't need my hands, which have already fallen victim to symptoms of spider guard, dude, I think about it all the time. It's probably the biggest back and forth in my brain all the time, is like I really want to take a fight, but I also I don't have any delusions of grandeur about myself, right? So I'm like, yeah, I can hang when I'm like sparring at a 6 with guys that are good, like that are understanding of my level and are like, okay, cool, here's where Drew is. Like my buddy Mikey, that's predominantly my striking coach, I feel like we're the exact same size. So he kind of like gauges where I'm at and goes with there. But I also am not above realizing the reality of how much it would truly, truly suck to get kicked in the middle of the face by a 22-year-old that's been wrestling since he was 5 and hasn't stopped. You know what I mean? Like, that's a real thing.
Yeah, no, for sure.
And the amount of guys that I've seen, college wrestlers or high school wrestlers that like, oh, I just graduated, wrestling season's over, I guess I'm a fighter now. And they just do striking for 6 months and then they go pick people up and drop them on their head. Like, I don't know, dude. Yeah, I want to so bad, but I also just like, it's something that my wife has kind of consistently been like, all right, you can train, but like,
this is your hobby.
Yeah.
You need these.
Yeah, totally. But man, I would love it. I would love it. Just, it's like, it's the ultimate test. It's just like, just go find out, Yeah, it's something I struggle with and think about all the time.
Speaking on, self-improvement and bettering yourself, know that, MMA, Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu is a big part of that for you. I've heard you speak on other podcasts, and I've heard some of your friends in the music industry speak about Uncle Joe.
Yeah.
Just who is Uncle Joe? Why does everyone talk about him? Why can't I find him online? What does he do?
So JoJo is an alien. So there's a band called Wookiefoot. You guys familiar with Wookiefoot? Okay, so JoJo is a member of Wookiefoot. He doesn't sing. He's like, he is the Flavor Flav of Wookiefoot.
Okay. So
like, there's a lot of like crazy one-liners that you'll hear in Wookiefoot that are like Uncle Joe's shit that he like set in a fire. But he's kind of just this like, he's like in the music industry, but he's not shackled to it because he just runs Shangri-La and Project Earth and their charity. But he's just kind of counseled all of us, and for me, like very early on, we've been knowing each other like 5 years. And he's just kind of like a good spiritual check-in of just like, okay, cool, well, this success is happening here and here, but like, how's your heart? And so I don't really, I don't know how to describe him as that. He's just this crazy mystic. I mean, the story.
Shaman?
Yeah. Yes. That's a good descriptor for Uncle Joe. Yeah. And he does a really good job of like, hey man, you should check in with Nako. or, you know, telling Trev, like, hey, man, you should call Drew. You know, like, he does a good job of keeping us all kind of tied together.
Would you say there's like a crew of you guys?
Kind of, man. You know, and here comes the chip on my shoulder. Grindhouse is my fucking crew, man.
Dog pound.
You know what I mean? Like, reality is I've loved for all the homies out there making music and stuff like that, but realistically, man, with our schedules, we see each other 3-4 times a year. You know, we all talk when we can. Trev and I keep in real good touch. Franti and I check in pretty regularly. But really, man, everyone kind of is just, you know, like, yeah, we kind of have this collective of artists that are, like, on similar tips and care about similar shit. But really, man, we're just all in our own worlds so much that it's like, yeah, man, I mean, if I was going through some shit, I wouldn't call another musician. I'd call Will, you know.
Is that different during festival season?
Yes, and that's the magic of festival season, is it's when we all get to see each other. Because, like I said, it's easy when we're all in our own little pockets to forget that the other ones exist. You know, we, like, see each other vicariously through social media. And in the rare events, we get to travel together, which is the shit. But as we grow, that happens less and less because everyone's doing their own thing. So, yeah, that's kind of the magic of festival season, is it's really when we get to see each other and hang out. So...
How's that been going so far?
It's good, man. It's a trip, you know, all watching each other grow. You know, like, Nakos and Trevor both are just like, every time I see him, I'm just like, fuck, man, y'all are just crushing. And then what's cool for me is, like, being younger in the scene experience-wise, like, we all played at Pyro de Mayo in Ohio, and, you know, Nako and everyone with the band was like, man, you guys are a real fucking band now. Ready to roll, you know. So it's a huge compliment, something I don't take lightly, and something that, you know, it's cool to see. It's good to have the nod from your peers of, like, you know, and that's what you do for a living, is play music. It's cool to have people that also do that are very successful, be like, you got it, you know. So, yeah, love it. It's crazy. It's crazy watching everyone grow.
Are there musicians that you're friends with that at one time you were a fan of?
All of them.
Yeah.
You know.
Do you have to pinch yourself at times?
With Franti, a couple times. You know, we were on tour there last year, and we had 2 days off in San Francisco, and I stayed at his house. And I got there, like, probably 12:30 after the show, and we, like, hung out and talked for, like, an hour and a half, and then he took me to the guest room. And I was, like, laying in bed, and I was like, you're in Michael Franti's fucking house right now, dude. What the fuck? It was like, go back in time and tell your 17-year-old self that this was going to be a thing. And then we ended up, like, kicking it, making trap beats in his studio the next night. And it was like, yeah, every once in a while, I'm just like, what the fuck? But what's weird with, like Trevor is, like, my bro, dude. Like, my bro. And I've always been a huge fan of his music. And it's just a weird thing, too, because I was like, what movie is that where he's like, Seth Rogen's character is like, you know who I think would like me is Vince Vaughn. I feel like Vince Vaughn would want to hang out with me. You know, I kind of could always see these cats from a distance and just be like, man, I feel like I'd vibe with that dude. And, you know, yeah, I love all the dudes. But, yeah, Nako, Trevor, all those cats, man. You know, huge fans of their shit and was before we were friends, you know.
So we talked on the last podcast, and you said, you know, before you really started writing music, you were kind of dirtbagging it, playing in the mountains, going over to India, playing over there. Did you always see music as your path?
Yeah, man. I mean, since I was a little kid, I was, like, running around with a toy guitar and, like, you know, watching this Garth Brooks concert thing on repeat. And, like, you know, I always had this thing in my head, like, I want to be a rock star. You know, but I found drugs and alcohol real young, and I was just like, you know, and I started painting when I was, like, early high school too, you know, and all the people that I always looked up to were like Shannon Hoon and Basquiat and fucking all these people, where I was just like, that was kind of my thought, was like, I'm just gonna ride this bitch hard until the wheels fall off and hopefully make some cool art before I die. So yeah, I mean, it was always there. But during that time when I first got sober and was just climbing, I was like, I don't know what I want to do, dude. You know what I mean? I played my guitar a little bit, but, like, pretty much was just rock climbing and fly fishing and skiing in the winter, and I didn't really know, man. I remember at one point telling my wife, like, maybe I think I might just be a dirtbag. Because you live in a mountain town, you see these guys. I'm like, I know some dudes that are in their 60s that have been at it for a while, and they have cars and shit. They seem like, you know what I mean? It seems like it just works out. If you hang out in a mountain town long enough, you might become mayor. So I just was like, you know what I mean? That was my plan. I was just like, I'll just hang in Red Lodge, and when I'm 50, I'll get some cool job because I've been here longer than everyone, and it'll all work out. So the fact that the music thing worked out and is working out is pretty cool.
Was there a rock bottom moment where you kind of had a epiphany where I need to get back on track?
Yeah, I think it was in Nepal where I just kind of was like, it was just kind of, I feel like, the culmination of the dirt bagging, right? Like everything had been like, I landed this crazy opportunity to go survey in Utah and make a shitload of money. And so I did that, and then I spent every single dollar to go to Nepal. So it was like towards the end of the trip at Nepal, it was just like, all right, man, this was a chapter of your life. You closed it in the most epic way ever. You classed the 3 tallest passes in the Himalaya. I was sitting on the top of the Marshangdi Hotel in Kathmandu smoking hash and drinking chai, and was just like, all right, I guess I got to get after it now, And I'd written a bunch of shit while I was there, and I was just like, all right, I don't know how the fuck I'm going to do this, but when I get home, I'm going to start figuring it out. My wife was very, very encouraging of like, she helped me get a shitty mic and like a little recording setup, and I went to the very first Arise Music Festival ever and handed out this shitty little demo to everyone that I saw, just like, here you go. And, I remember what's cool that we're playing Arise, the main stage at the time that we are, was the very first Arise. I remember watching Xavier Rudd, and I remember just being like, I remember saying to my wife, like, I could fucking do this, man. Like, I can do this. And here we are 5 years later, almost to the day. We're playing at the same time he did. It's that shit.
I want to say, like, is that surreal? What's that like? Or is it like, I already knew, so this is it?
At the risk of sounding completely arrogant, man, I just like, I don't know, man. Like, I look at guys like Connor, and I just, like, I know that I was made to do this shit. So there's, like, no ifs, ands, or buts, or how long it's going to take. Like, no, I don't give a fuck about none of that. Like, I know that this is why I was put here. I know that this is my gift. I know that I have zero intention to squander it. I know how much effort, attention, and care and vigor that I put into my craft. I know that I'll outwork any motherfucker in existence. So I just am like, it's a huge blessing, and I don't take it for granted. And yes, it's surreal in the fact of like, oh my God, this is actually a moment. This isn't, it's not this thing that I'm like, oh yeah, that I'm like visualizing happening. Like in those moments when I'm walking on stage, like, oh yeah, fuck, this is happening right now. Yes, it's really surreal. But also I'm just like, all right, cool, man, this is really step one. It seems like every time I meet a goal, I'm just like, all right, that was step one, and now step one again. It's just like keep leveling up and like doing another fucking mountain, But yeah, man, I'm hyper focused on it, and I know if I keep showing up, it should work out.
Has the training fostered that I'm going to outwork everyone, or has it helped?
Yes.
And do you have that? Obviously, you have that same approach in training, getting a blue belt in 10 months.
Yep. And dude, I mean, even when I competed at that tournament as a white belt, I remember, joking. My professor jokes about it now, but it was like my third match. My first 2 matches, first one was less than a minute, second one was less than 90 seconds. And then the third one, this kid was good, and he was playing lots of kind of cool open guard. And I was walking out, and I remember Will being like, listen, man, you got to be mindful of points because here's this game. And I like interrupted him and was like, no, I'm going to fucking choke him. And he was like, dude, whatever, man. And then I remember, like, after I choked him, my buddy Shane was actually reffing, and he was like, damn, dude, who are you? And he was like, he didn't show up to compete, dude. He showed up to win. So, yeah, man, it's just a mindset that I have of just like, I just want to